How does Chris Watts try to convince the agents that he has no knowledge of his family's whereabouts? How is he being deceptive? And how does he reveal that he knows more than he lets on? This is a statement and conversation analysis of the most telling parts of the first 15 minutes of Tammy Lee and Graham Coder's interview of Chris Watts prior to Chris's confession. At this point in time, Chris's family is still just missing. In statement and conversation analysis, it's understood that people tell the truth even when or exactly because they're trying to conceal it. Lying causes stress and results in unreliable and deceptive statements. Before we go forward, a quick thank you to all of you who subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it very much, and I hope you find these videos relevant to your own lives as well. If you're new here, welcome on board. Check out my videos and playlists for more analysis of the people involved in the Watts case and in other cases. Let's go for it.
Chris, Tammy and I are confused, okay? And here's what we're confused about. I told you that we've done some work overnight.
Yeah.
I told you that we've got a lot of leads, okay? That wasn't a lie.
I know.
We know a lot more than we think we do, okay? And here's where we're confused. You're this great guy, and I'm not just telling you that, okay? I'm telling you that because everyone tells us that, okay? We can't find anyone to say anything bad about you. Chris is a great guy. He's a good father. He's a good man. We're confused as to why you're not taking care of your beautiful children.
I'm not taking care of them right now.
Right now. Where are they?
I don't know where they're at. Honestly, I do not know where they are at. If I could have my babies back home right now, I would. I want them back. I want everybody back. That is the God's honest truth.
Notice Chris's exhalations in his first utterance.
I don't know where they're at.
His internal stress is making him exhausted. Also, notice his low-key tone of voice. He's not being assertive. These two factors, exhalations combined with unassertiveness, make it sound like he's fishing for the agent's sympathy. This is a pattern in his language, and we observe it multiple times. After the 6-second pause, we observe an important self-repair. Self-repairs typically serve a function, to make statements less direct and many times less honest. It's interesting that Chris can't complete his honest utterance at this point. A quick digression concerning self-repairs. I once asked an interviewee for the reason why she watched a TV show about people in deep financial trouble. Her reliable first response was to make me feel better about myself. She then modified it with this. The self-repairs retract her initial answer. Obviously, she doesn't feel comfortable about her initial answer. Also, she's now downgraded it to just one of many different reasons, supposedly. What's changed since Chris's first utterance? Nothing, except he avoids contraction and tries to sound more assertive. Still, he makes a so-called micropause to separate the two grammatical subjects, I and they. His inability to complete simple sentences within an expected time limit should be noted, since phonetically it points to an unreliable denial. He's rehearsing a better way of saying the exact same thing, but still in an unconvincing way. As I mentioned in the intro, statement analysis presupposes that people tell the truth. If I could have my babies back home right now is a conditional clause, and along with the main clause, I would, it connotes an improbable situation, many times impossible. Indirectly, Chris lets us know that he can't bring them back. We notice his vowel stress on want. The reason for the stress on this particular verb is to convince the other speakers. This stress indicates that Chris knows that Coder and Tammy don't believe him. Even scarier, Chris may also be trying to convince himself, just like he was rehearsing I do not know where they're at. Everybody is noted as unspecific and distancing language. Everybody is frequently used by subjects with guilty knowledge. It's a way of avoiding responsibility, avoiding closeness to the victims. The more a guilty person thinks about a person close to them, the harder it gets for them to make reliable statements. Therefore, distancing language is often used by these subjects. Deceptive subjects often use mild oaths to try to make the statement sound more convincing. They are more likely than truthful people to use expressions like "I swear," "on God," and also the idiom "God's honest truth." Appealing to God is the ultimate convincing language. A subject can't go further than that. We typically hear this appeal when the subject's exhausted all other options. Earlier, we noted that Chris couldn't complete his honest utterance. Now he returns to it, and we now have a so-called full circle. In your own conversations, notice how often you end your accounts how you started them. It's a way of letting the other speaker know that your account is now completed. The only difference we see here is that he's prefaced his repetition with the idiom. In previous videos, I pointed out some awkward and uncomfortable pauses. What we're about to see now, though, exceeds what we've seen so far. Watch or listen to this.
So let's keep talking about your family.
55 seconds. This pause breaks every conversational rule possible. From our own daily conversations, we know how important it is to be acknowledged by the person we're trying to tell something, or even more sensitive, convince of something. It's uncomfortable when we don't get that feedback. Unlike our findings in previous videos, Chris doesn't react to this lack of acknowledgement by modifying or expanding what he said.
Like Chris, you're looking at is the man who loves these kids and loves his wife and will never, ever, ever do anything to harm them. That's the Chris you're looking at right now. The Chris you're looking at right now wants these kids and his wife back at his house right now. That's the Chris you're looking at. You have to trust me that when I tell you that these two beautiful girls right here, I did nothing to them, and to my beautiful wife, I did nothing to her. Like, you have to trust me and believe me. Like, I know you don't know me as a person. You've known me for like 2.5, 3 hours, and I don't know what your opinion is, but you have to realize that these two beautiful girls right here and my wife, I had nothing to do with the disappearance. Like, they vanished, they were taken, someone has taken them, they're safe somewhere, we don't know. I had nothing to do with this act of like evil cruelty, whatever has happened here. Because my love for these two girls and my wife, like, I don't want anything to happen to them. I've never wanted anything to happen to them. No matter if me and my wife separate or not, or divorce or anything, I never wish harm on anybody, on a human being in general.
Okay.
Like, just seeing that picture, like, I want them just to run through that front door and just grab me, or just just tackle me, knock me to the floor, bust my head, I don't care. The amount of love I have for my family is exponential, and it's never going to die.
This is a dead end for Chris. In the following, DeCoder brings up the idea of the two Chris's that I spoke about in a previous video, a good side and a bad side.
Okay. We just can't figure out why there's two Chris's. Okay. We talked about that last night.
Yes.
We just can't figure it out. There's a Chris. Okay. If somebody asked me my kid's child routine, I would say, I don't know, go after them all. That's the truth, right? And so it is very surprising to me, and it warms my heart that you're the type of dad who can pack a bag in the morning, and you know just what to put in there, and you know just what to put in there as a backup in case they have an accident, okay? You know what the clothes to put in there, You know what they have for breakfast, you know what they have for a snack, and a dinner, and a nighttime snack. You can tell me the book you read to your daughters, okay? I know you love them. And you're not faking that, are you? It's real, okay? There's a lot of guys who come in here and try to tell me that, and I know they're lying, okay? Because they can't answer those questions that you can answer, okay? But you are here today lying about something else. So we need to talk about that, okay?
I cheated on her.
I know. And this is very good.
Chris's admission here is common for deceptive subjects. He mentions a quote-unquote lesser sin or an action that he can be convicted for to avoid admitting the bigger sin or action. Coder's a trained interrogator, so right away he says, "I know," in a calm tone of voice, to show Chris that this doesn't surprise him and that he knows Chris has more to tell him. As a quick side note, cheating has become a euphemism for infidelity or adultery. This relates to society at large, not Chris's word choice specifically. A euphemism like this downplays the immoral aspect of the action. It's a coping mechanism for some people.
I'm not proud of it.
Notice that Chris can't even sound apologetic about his cheating. He answers in the negative and uses the word proud, which suggests that he's far from being humble. We note expressions stated in the negative because truthful people are more likely to state what they are than what they are not. What a person denies to be is thus sensitive to that person, because in theory there's 1,000 things we're not. So why this one thing, we ask? Truly apologetic responses include "I'm ashamed" or "I feel bad."
I know. Keep going.
Chris is trying to get off the hook, so Coder's "keep going" must be frustrating for him.
Keep going.
Chris reacts with a 3-second pause, most likely surprised.
She accused me of it. I denied it. I cheated on her, and I feel horrible for it.
Now Chris is answering in the positive, as we would have expected him to in his first response. He's reaching here. When one way of phrasing a statement fails, he tries another one. This is a person simulating to have a conscience.
She was pregnant, and it was... I don't want to...
His self-repairs reveal extreme internal stress, reluctance to keep going, and an attempt at buying more time to look for a way to sound emotional.
I didn't hurt her.
Once again, Chris doesn't sound assertive. His voice is low-key, and he's using exhalations to sound sincere and to fish for the agent's understanding. Also, he introduces the word hurt, indicating that this word is sensitive to him.
I cheated on her. I hurt her emotionally. I cheated on her.
His multiple self-repairs and pauses have finally resulted in something that he thinks he can use. He repeats the word hurt here, presupposing that he did in fact hurt Shanann somehow, even though he just stated he didn't hurt her. Also, pay attention to his tone of voice.
I cheated on her. I hurt her emotionally. I cheated on her.
He sounds happy that he finally found this excuse. This is insincere and in direct contrast to his next statement, where he tries to sound sad and apologetic. Listen to this.
And I feel absolutely horrible about this.
Now he's using drawn-out speech for the sake of emphasis. He doesn't give new information, he just adds absolutely, which is recognized as an overly convincing linguistic element that is thus insincere. By now it's clear that Chris's repetitions suggest rehearsal. He's rehearsing how to answer in the most convincing way.
That's what I've been holding back.
Under this type of pressure, a subject will often presuppose what they've previously denied. Previously, Chris has denied that he's been holding back anything. He has claimed to be honest, but now he's willing to admit that he's been holding back something. This makes Chris look unreliable.
When I didn't go to the Rocky game, I was with her. Okay. I went to dinner with her.
He will admit to anything else but the crime, it appears.
Okay. Keep going.
Coder is obviously an experienced and gifted interrogator. He doesn't ask Chris to detail what he just told him. He knows that the more he lets Chris speak, the more Chris will tell him himself.
That 5 weeks I was alone, I was with her most of the time.
Okay. You're doing a good job. This is the Chris that I knew would come out today. This is the Chris who tells the truth because you're a truth teller.
Instead of acting surprised or halfway offended that Chris lied to him previously, Coda immediately supports Chris, praising him.
I mean, that's God's honest truth.
Okay. Who is her?
Chris is repeating his unreliable idiom. Tammy's excessive nodding indicates that she doesn't believe what Chris is saying. It's overcompensating.
So I don't want to get her involved in this. I don't want to ruin her life. Like, if something like this, I don't want her involved in this.
We now know that her is Nicole. Chris says he doesn't want to get her involved in this and in something like this. By presupposing a this and advancing it with something like this, Chris indirectly lets the agents know that there's more to this situation than just the cheating. There's a larger this, so to speak.
Okay. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Yes.
I knew that you would say you didn't want to get her involved. Because you'd like to take care of people.
She's a wonderful person. Like, I mean, she knew I was married, yes. And I told her we were going through issues, yes.
All people, even people who are unable to feel empathy and remorse, have a perceived sense of right and wrong. The vast majority feels it, while a smaller percentage understands it intellectually and uses it to take advantage of others and or present themselves in a more favorable light. Here, Chris first says she's a wonderful person, referring to Nicole, but then he retracts it with his counter-objections. These counter-objections show us that he's aware that the agents may not buy that she's a wonderful person, considering this is an extramarital relationship. Countering objections is a linguistic self-defense mechanism. Chris is making it sound like this is something he knows he needs to say, not because he actually thinks it's wrong. There's a difference between intellectual and emotional understanding, general opinions versus personal ones. Chris prefers speaking generally rather than specifically and personally when it comes to his wife and children.
I just felt like everything that we had when we first started dating and like we met in 2010, everything, you know, your new relationship, spark, everything's hot and heavy, everything's great. Get married, everything's still great. And then, like, you know, people just fall out of love. And that's where I was. Kids, that's your life, that's your lifeline. That's everything. Like, you make kids, they come first before anything. Kids, spouse, family. That's what it's always been. I'd never thought in a million years that could happen.
Yeah.
I don't even think I'm a figure. But it was. I never felt that way about anybody in my lifetime.
Chris, that's not your fault.
No, I'm just.
Well, can we do this? I know you want to take care of her because it's because you're the type of guy who takes care of women. It is. You took care of your wife, you took care of your daughters, you were very good at taking care, and you want to take care of her. So can we make a deal? I don't think this girl did anything to hurt anybody, but I can't walk out of here wondering. So can we leave her out of it?
Okay.
Get back to your wife and your daughters.
Okay.
Coda obviously notices Chris's stress, and to calm him down, he says they'll leave Nicole out of the conversation. At first glance, this may seem counterintuitive, but on second thought, it's important to distinguish between the different characters, the different actors in Chris's narrative. Initially, that is. Otherwise, the subject may freeze and stop providing valuable information. His voice breaks on the A sound.
Okay.
He's audibly uncomfortable with this topic.
Okay.
Where are they?
That I do not know. That was what I was holding back. Like, I didn't know, like, what I did. I know, Chris.
Notice that and the vowel stress on the S sound. This is Chris manipulating the agents to think that he has given them sufficient information. He says it with the same unassertive low-key voice we observed earlier. Chris is using pathos, trying to invoke sympathy from the audience, to make the audience, Coda and Tammy, feel what he wants them to feel. Chris avoids contraction and thus tries to sound more assertive. But that's the thing, we can hear he's trying. It doesn't come naturally to him. Again, it should always be noted when the subject's suddenly willing to reveal more information and admit that they were in fact holding something back. In the vast majority of cases, This means that the subject's still hiding the most critical pieces of information. In the following, notice how Chris continues his repetitions and tries to protect himself by admitting less significant things.
In an interview today, you weren't asked about infidelity. You were asked about...
I was holding back from last night.
That's not why you failed today.
That's not how that works. You would have reactions to every single question, not just the ones that we talked about being important.
Like the ones you wanted me to lie about, like, is that what you're talking about?
No, the ones about her disappearance and knowing where she's at and about seeing her last.
I was not lying about those things. So
Can I tell you what I think?
Yes.
Okay. So, going into that interview today with Tammy, where we strapped you in, we knew all about Nikki. Okay? All about her. And you're doing a very good job right now, because you didn't have to tell us about it, but you did.
I couldn't hold that in anymore.
I know. We could see it on your chest and in your eyes. Okay?
Linguistically, Chris is giving the impression that he's a moral person who just couldn't go on holding it back, as he says. Needless to say, this is highly unconvincing at this point in the interview. Notice Coda's subtle reminder of threat.
We could see it on your chest and in your eyes. Okay?
That the agents are trained in body language and are able to analyze Chris, even when Chris thinks he's able to fool them. This speaks to ethos, meant to make Chris aware of the agent's abilities. Next, we notice 3 levels in how Coda tries to get Chris to talk. The first level is Coda using ethos to pressure Chris.
Here's the challenge that we have. We knew about Nikki, and so we didn't need to ask you about her in the polygraph. We just didn't need to, because we knew, okay? And so that's why we didn't ask you, because we already knew the answer, okay? We're very, very worried about your daughters and your wife.
I am too.
Okay? So can I tell you, maybe based on the people that I've talked to, and Tammy's talked to, based on all the investigations we've done, based on your cell phone, both your cell phones, your wife's cell phone, Nikki's cell phone, okay? Based on talking with family members and friends, and based on talking with everyone. Here's what we know, okay? And I'm not going to lie to you right now. Here's what we know, okay?
After this ethos technique, Coda begins a flattery technique, second level.
Chris is a good man. Everyone said it. Okay, I'm not just telling you that because I, want to blow smoke here. You're a good man. Okay. Nobody can fake answers about packing a backpack. Nobody. You either pack a backpack for your kids or you don't. Okay. This should have been the happiest time of your marriage. Okay. You and Shanann. This should have been the happiest time. She's making a little money. She's making good money. You're making great money. You both have a job. You have beautiful kids. You have a beautiful house. You're in Colorado. Clean air, good people. Okay? And on top of that, you look pretty good now. You're pretty fit. Okay?
The third and final level is Coda trying to blame Shanann for the difficulties in her and Chris's marriage. This side with the suspect strategy is the most extreme technique to get a subject to think that the agent's on their side.
Okay? This should have been a time in your marriage where you guys were happy and thriving and productive. Okay? And I believe that Shanann's the reason none of that happened. I believe that she's a controlling person. Maybe doesn't listen to you as much as she should. I think that she can do whatever she wants and you can't. Okay? I think if you were to go to a restaurant, she would order whatever she wants. And as soon as you order a nice steak, she says, "Whoa, buddy." Okay? A woman that lets her man do all of the backpack packing and all of the cooking.
I'll do all the cooking, but she cooks I do some things here and there.
Okay. That's because you're a good person, and I think that she started on the path to leave the marriage. Okay. It's ironic that we're talking about you and Nikki. I think that she was the one who started on that path first. What do you think about that?
I wouldn't have thought about that.
Okay.
Next, notice how Coda now presupposes that Shanann was controlling. In reality, he's reaching here, but he's sounding sure to make Chris more comfortable about telling what he did to her.
And the other thing I think is interesting is Even though she is that type of person that's controlling, doesn't listen, does what she wants, is walking away from her kids, here you are defending her. Because to your core, you want to take care of the people you love. Okay. And that's the reason why we want to give you an opportunity today to just help us find them. Okay? Will you do that for us?
Opportunity has positive connotations, but it also indirectly points to the fact that this is just that, an opportunity. Opportunities are not forever.
I'll do whatever I can to help to find where they're at.
Phonetically, Chris is not being assertive and convincing here. He stresses can and at, which linguistically restricts his ability or desire to help. This doesn't sound like a man who's willing to do whatever he can, even though on a lexical level, this is the expression he uses. Also, he doesn't just say find them, he says find where they're at. He places his wife and children somewhere, so he shows knowledge about them being at a particular location.
Okay. So when she asked you, do you know where they are, or are you going to tell the truth about where they are, you failed miserably.
Despite Coder's flattery technique, we learn that his real agenda is to make Chris feel cornered. Failed miserably is a strong and unequivocal assertion.
I don't know where they're at.
Chris, right now your dad's outside. He flew across the country to help you. Okay? You're lying to him. You're lied to everyone you talk to. And they all bought it. Will you please help us find your babies?
I want to find them. I've told you over and over, I want to find everyone.
The breath in his voice is a strong appeal to be pitied. Chris makes a self-repair instead of completing the utterance. And this is the case in point. It's as if Chris thinks it's enough for him to tell how he allegedly feels. Truthful people are able to show how they feel because they're sincere and don't have to think about it. He's again using distancing language. He's unable to say their names, unable to say wife and daughters or children, even after a micropause before everyone. That he can't even use the proper names after a brief moment to think about his wording is a strong indicator of guilty knowledge.
Tell us about that night again, and please tell the truth this time.
I told you the truth. I promise I've told you the truth. Like, I woke up at 4 o'clock. I woke up at 4 o'clock. Got dressed, got ready. 4:15, me and Shannon talked. About the house, about separation.
Promise is a persuasive linguistic element. It's not deceptive in and of itself, but in this type of interview it usually is, especially because it's a recurring word in Chris's language.
I promise you that I had nothing to do with any of that.
Why didn't you call 911?
I didn't think anything was wrong.
I think you knew what was wrong.
I did not know what was wrong, sir. I promise you that.
Narrative balance is a concept in statement analysis, where you compare the essentials to the non-essentials of a subject's narrative. We hear a 2-second pause followed by a self-repair, where Chris shifts from we to I, and then there's a 3-second pause. At this point, Chris still hasn't told anything essential. He's rehearsing. This is not the language of a person speaking from experiential memory, or at the very least, entirely from experiential memory. Chris tries to give the impression that his memory is accurate. After a self-repair and 8 seconds of pause all in all, he finally gets to the so-called critical event, which is the most important part of a narrative, but only on a surface level. His prologue is longer than the critical event. This is a red flag that points to undisclosed information. This is a good place to end the analysis for now. I will return to it, I promise. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
can see it in your face. Holding this lie in is going to do nothing for you.
I know this. Like,
Okay.
I'm not, like, trying to, like, cover things up, like...
Yeah, but you kind of are.
Like, I want them back home, like...
But you know they're not coming back home. You know that.
I don't know in the back of my head. I hope they come back home.
But you know they're not.
I hope they come back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know they're not coming back home.